everyone, it's Lisa here with you on the Crafty Meraki YouTube channel. Today I'm going to create a card for you using this beautiful plate. This is under the mistletoe. When I saw this, I couldn't wait to use it, and today I'm going to show you a card that I think can be really easily mass produced. I add in a couple of extra steps, but those are things that could definitely be dropped. But we're going to start off with our foiling. And today I'm going to be foiling onto a navy cardstock. Now, coloured cardstocks can be really temperamental when you're foiling with them. You do have to play around with different foils and sometimes even a different plate or different pressure. Fortunately, mine worked out really well. I'm using champagne foil today. It's one of my favourite golds. And I'm just putting that down onto the cardstock with the plate down on top, and then I'm going to tape that plate to the cardstock. I prefer to tape mine, lots of people don't, but I like to make sure that my plate doesn't move around. And I've heated up my Glimmer system so it's ready to go, and I'm just going to flip my stack, put it down on the platform, and then add on my shims on top. And I'm going to hit the timer button just to get everything started. That takes about a minute to stop, and once it's stopped I can remove that whole platform and run it through my die cutting machine. And now that I've done that, I've brought it back to my desk. Just going to remove my plates and the foil plate underneath. I didn't use my tool, so I burnt my finger a little bit, a lesson to me. For sure. I'm just going to remove the tape now and take off that plate and peel back the foil. And this is such a magical moment, I think, when you foil, when you see that gorgeous plate, because really you don't need much else on your card than this lovely plate, and you see how pretty that looks. It's a little bit like heat embossing when you melt the powder. So I've trimmed it down a little bit, and I'm going to just show you my spare bit of leftover foil, which I'm going to keep and use at another time. So what I thought I would do now is just add a little bit of blending around the edges. So this is black soot distress ink, and this is really just going to add a little bit of depth and drama to the card. This is definitely one of the steps that you could drop. You don't need this, but I just thought I would add it on just to make those edges just a little bit darker and just to help the center of that panel pop a little bit more. I mean, you could definitely do a lot of these in one go. If your panels were pre-cut to size and your foil was pre-cut to size, your Glimmer machine is on and hot and ready to go, you could definitely foil quite a lot of these panels in a short time. So I'm just working my way around this piece of cardstock here and just making sure I'm happy with the depth of black. And although the foil does actually resist the distress ink, there are some areas where I can see that the gold foil is slightly kind of muted, I suppose. And I do take a dry cloth to that in a moment, but if you see here as I tilt it into the light, you can really see that black around the outside, and it definitely helps to make the center of the panel pop. So I'm just going to go over those edges there just to take off any of that excess ink. So I'm now going to go ahead and do the sentiment. This is Magical Christmas, and I'm going to use a sentiment from that set, which is a previously released set, and I'm going to be stamping onto the same navy cardstock as I used for my main panel. So just prepping that cardstock with an anti-static powder bag and brushing off the excess. I'm going to add on my Versamark ink onto the stamp and just press that down. And I'm just adding on some gold embossing powder now. I usually add a couple of layers just to make sure that I get good coverage. And then I'm going to take that away and heat set that off camera. I've heat set that and trimmed it down, and I'm now going to bring that sentiment over to my panel, and I do think it would look really nice as a strip across the card, but in the end I decided I would trim it down just so that I could have as much of that foiled panel showing as possible. So I'm just adding some adhesive onto the back, and I'm going to press that down onto some gold glitter cardstock. And I'm just going to use my scissors just to trim off the excess around the sides. This is where I can go horribly wrong because I don't always cut very straight, but it did work out okay today. So I've just added some foam tape onto the back of that, and I'm now going to add on some adhesive. This is just going to allow me to move that sentiment around a little bit when I press it down, just to make sure that it's straight. And I could definitely stop here, but of course I'm not going to. I'm going to add on some of the Enchanted Forest gems. I really love them. They're gold, they're different sized. I use them all the time. And this is a step that you could drop if you wanted to speed up your mass production, but I really love the gems. I think that they add a texture that may not be visible, of course, on the screen, but when you have the card in your hands you can see them, and they give that extra little bit of sparkle around the foil. So definitely worth it in my opinion. But that brings us to the end of today's card. And although I think this is a card that's good for mass production, I also think it's a really good card to make, perhaps if you're new to foiling, as the foiling aspect of it is quite straightforward. Thank you so much for joining us here on the YouTube channel today. If you like the card, please do give it a thumbs up and a share, and consider subscribing to the channel if you'd like to see more. I will be back soon with another video for you, but in the meantime I wish you a wonderful day. Bye for now.